The encounter in the bathroom. A tale of betrayal between my mother and me. Have you ever experienced that unsettling sensation that something was amiss, despite the outward appearance of normalcy? On that tranquil Sunday, the bathroom door stood closed, and a soft knock echoed through the stillness. With a single knock, the course of everything was irrevocably altered. My perception of my mother shifted irrevocably, and the events that followed left me regretting the moment I chose to open that door. On a tranquil Sunday afternoon, an unexpected knock on the bathroom door altered the trajectory of my day, leaving me unprepared for the series of events that were about to unfold. On that Sunday, the atmosphere was laden with a false sense of peace, enveloping you like a cozy embrace, coaxing you to lower your defenses. As the sun ascended to its zenith, its soft beams wove through the drapes of our snug suburban home, enveloping the surroundings in a warmth that appeared to momentarily pause the passage of time. Sundays, a cherished moment for me to unwind, to retreat from the week's chaos, and lose myself in my own reflections or dive into the enchanting realm of a video game. This Sunday possessed a distinct quality, though I remained oblivious to it in the beginning. Post-lunch, I found myself wandering towards the bathroom, planning to take my time in that secluded space. The timeless pursuit of a tranquil interlude, a brief respite to savor the essence of solitude. A distinct joy enveloped me as I navigated through my phone, perhaps engaging in a game or two, relishing the serene comfort of my own solitude. The bathroom had always served as my sanctuary, a place where I could shut out the chaos of the outside world and take a moment to breathe deeply. Little did I know, the seemingly mundane afternoon I had envisioned was about to take an unforeseen turn. In that fleeting moment, my fingers glided over the screen of my phone, as the gentle, far-off echo of footsteps murmured through the hallway. At first, I paid little attention to it within our abode. A delicate orchestra of muted sounds resonated endlessly. The tender creak of the floorboards beneath our steps, the gentle hum of the refrigerator in the periphery, and the distant murmur of the television wafting from the living room. Yet, these footsteps bore a distinct essence, imbued with a sense of purpose in every stride. They advanced with a soft purpose, halting just outside the bathroom door. Suddenly, a knock echoed through the stillness of the room. The knock was delicate, a subtle beckoning rather than an insistence, as though it murmured, "Whenever you feel prepared, enter the realm." It was indeed strange enough to make me pause. My mother's voice lingered in the air, imbued with a cheerfulness that seemed almost overly radiant. "Salutations, my cherished one. Do you exist within?" A flicker of worry passed over my features as I directed my attention to the door. Securely closed and eerily quiet. One moment, beloved mother. I will join you in just a moment. Very well, she responded, her tone sparkling with a touch of exuberant cheerfulness. Seize the present. As her footsteps receded into the distance of the hallway, I redirected my focus to my phone, trying to dispel the strange encounter. My mother was never the type to intrude upon my privacy while I was in the bathroom. We were not the sort of family that needed constant updates on our locations or endeavors. Yet today, for reasons beyond comprehension, she felt an urge to stop and acknowledge us through the door. Curious, yet not an issue to linger upon excessively. That was my conviction. With each passing second, a tranquil calmness descended upon the environment once again. The residence rested in a tranquil stillness, its peace occasionally broken by the soft murmurs of the breeze brushing against the panes. I sought to embrace tranquility, but the reverberation of that knock lingered in the recesses of my mind. My mother appeared transformed, as though a fleeting shadow had swept across her essence. Even without having aired, her voice carried an unsettling resonance that lingered in the air. I shook my head, striving to cast away the disquieting sensation that was slowly encroaching upon me. Perhaps she was merely reveling in a fleeting moment of happiness. I contemplated perhaps she possessed a story waiting to be unveiled at a later moment, or perhaps she was merely extending a hand to inquire about the state of affairs. Nevertheless, in spite of the narratives I crafted to justify it, the peculiarity of the circumstance persisted, steadfast in its refusal to dissipate. Just as I started to find my footing again, the sound of her footsteps reverberated through the air. This time, they advanced with a measured pace, each footfall steeped in hesitation. My heart raced, awakened by an indescribable energy. Once again, she stood at the threshold, her heart racing with anticipation. What lies at the heart of it? Is all well within those walls? Her voice surfaced, gentler this time, laced with a trace of hesitation. Indeed, I replied, my voice trembling ever so slightly. I shall be departing shortly. In that instant, time appeared to suspend itself, a hush that stretched just a heartbeat longer before her words pierced the stillness. She remained perfectly still, despite everything. The echo of her presence hovered just outside the door, and I could feel my heart quicken in my chest. An unsettling curiosity enveloped me. A strange feeling that something was not quite right, as the air grew heavy with an unmistakable tension. As I stood up, I stole a quick glance at my image in the mirror. I stood there, seemingly the same, my hair a wild mess and my trusty hoodie draped over me, but the air surrounding me buzzed with an unmistakable shift. The air was thick with a heaviness, an unmistakable tension that ignited a sense of unease deep within the soul. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the sound of her footsteps receding down the hallway once again. A breath slipped from my lips, one I hadn't realized I was holding, and my body started to relax just a little. Still, the unease persisted. I stepped out of the bathroom, droplets of water cascading down my face, yearning to cleanse myself of the strange tension that had entwined itself around me. The water embraced my skin with a brisk touch, yet it provided scant comfort to the chaos brewing within my thoughts. With a towel securely fastened around my waist, I flung open the bathroom door and stepped into the hallway. All seemed unchanged, with beloved images gracing the walls and soft light filtering through the windows. Yet an unsettling sensation lingered, as if the very atmosphere of the house had shifted, a mere whisper of a difference that tugged at my senses. As I wandered through the corridor, the soft murmur of my bare feet caressed the polished hardwood beneath me. As I wandered through the corridor, I caught sight of my mother's door, perpetually closed, and proceeded to my own refuge at the distant end. As my fingers grazed the doorknob, a moment of uncertainty washed over me. A flicker of curiosity beckoned as I caught sight of the door, barely open, inviting yet mysterious. A mere crack, yet it was sufficient to set my heart aflutter. My mother consistently honored my boundaries, always asking for permission before entering my room. In a distant land, where the fabric of time wove itself into an endless tapestry, there lay a singular moment that unfurled into infinity. As I softly pushed the door open, a spark of hope ignited in my heart, yearning for her presence inside, but the room remained still and empty. In that instant, all things appeared to find their rightful place. My bed stood proudly made, my clothes amassed in a haphazard pile on the chair in the corner, while my desk overflowed with a delightful chaos of papers and assorted treasures. Still, there remained a fleeting essence, a feeling that danced just out of reach. The subtle fragrance of her perfume floated gently through the air, intertwining with memories that lingered in the atmosphere. The fragrance of my mother's perfume. It hung in the atmosphere, a soft murmur of reality that delicately pushed my doubts into focus. Once, she had traversed these familiar halls, but what lay behind her presence here, and what had occupied her thoughts? Seated at the brink of my bed, my thoughts whirled in a chaotic storm within my mind. Maybe she had come in to tidy up, or perhaps she was after something from my room, but that explanation seemed askew. She had never ventured into such territory before, and the stillness that enveloped the air when she rapped on the bathroom door earlier only intensified the enigma. As I lay back on the bed, my eyes drawn to the ceiling, I became immersed in contemplation, striving to untangle the complex web of my thoughts. As I delved further into my thoughts, a torrent of inquiries started to emerge before my mind's eye. What might have compelled her to slip into my room without a sound? What could have driven her to linger outside the bathroom for such an extended period? What was it about this situation that suggested a hidden truth lay just beneath the surface, eager to be discovered? However, the story was just beginning. As the afternoon progressed, I found myself revisiting those moments repeatedly in my thoughts, striving to untangle the strange tension that had intertwined itself between us. A strange feeling hung in the atmosphere, a fleeting murmur that twirled just out of reach. Even as I tried to brush it off as insignificant, A persistent feeling tugged at my mind, suggesting that a profound change was approaching. The days that followed that strange encounter in the bathroom were anything but mundane. That an elusive tension hung in the air between my mother and me, a silent enigma that slipped through my grasp. There was no grand confrontation or fiery dispute between us. Instead, an unarticulated line had been crossed, a silent tension hanging in the air, both of us reluctant to confront it. A persistent doubt resided within me, questioning whether to introduce the topic or if such an endeavor would prove worthwhile. Nevertheless, the tension lingered in the atmosphere, delicate yet undeniable, as if it were patiently waiting for the perfect moment to unveil itself. It commenced with delicate hints, akin to the manner in which her eyes held onto mine for a heartbeat longer than required as I stepped into the space. She would cast furtive glances, only to quickly turn her eyes away, pretending to be absorbed in some other endeavor. Or how it seemed she was perpetually close, seamlessly finding reasons to occupy the same space as I did. It felt as though every time I craved a moment of peace, she would materialize, settled in the living room during my tranquil hours, bustling about in the kitchen as I reached for a snack, or even carefully folding laundry on the couch while I lost myself in video games. At first, I tried to brush it aside, convincing myself it was simply a matter of coincidence. Perhaps she yearned for additional moments spent together, or perhaps a thought lingered in her heart, one she found difficult to articulate. As the events unfolded, it became ever more clear that a profound meaning lay beneath the surface. Within the depths of our dialogue resided a truth, an unspoken reason we both circled yet never summoned the courage to confront. On a serene evening, we settled into the couch, captivated by the dancing images on the screen. In the softly illuminated living room, the delicate flicker of the screen emitted a comforting light, as the tranquil hum of the show mingled with the gentle clinking of ice in her glass, crafting a peaceful ambience. As I endeavored to lose myself in the captivating narrative of the show, my mind drifted, inevitably pulled back to the vision of her seated beside me, so close. I could feel the warmth radiating from her presence. As I lingered in that moment, an intriguing feeling welled up inside me, quickening my heartbeat, yet the cause remained just out of reach. Her words were sparse, interspersed only with the occasional comment about the show, yet each one held a significance, as if a profound meaning hovered just out of reach. My eyes were fixed on the screen, but my thoughts drifted to the space that lay between us, or rather, the complete lack of it. With each gentle graze of her arm against mine, a delightful shiver coursed through my skin, prompting me to reflect on the source of my heightened awareness to her every delicate motion. As the final credits rolled and the curtain descended on the performance, a soothing wave of relief washed over me, akin to a soft breeze following an arduous journey. Perhaps it was the palpable tension of our close proximity that ignited a feeling within me, compelling me to stand and establish a bit of distance between us. As my hand lingered above the remote, poised to mute the flickering screen, her voice pierced the silence, pausing my movement. "You've truly blossomed," she remarked, her voice gentle, laced with a hint of nostalgia. Clutching the remote firmly in my hand, I found myself frozen, ensnared in a moment of hesitation regarding how to respond. "Indeed," I whispered, casting a furtive glance in her direction. Her gaze was sharp, a look that stirred a flutter in my stomach, as if she were seeing me for the first time, not just as her son, but as someone transformed, someone more grown up. A dense stillness enveloped the atmosphere, so palpable that it caused my palms to shine with perspiration. Uncertainty lingered in the atmosphere, and the oppressive silence bore the weight of a miscalculated step. As I wrestled with my swirling thoughts, she caught me off guard with a sudden gesture. With a delicate gesture, she reached out and allowed her hand to linger upon mine. It was a gentle touch, yet it coursed through me like a sudden flash of electricity. My breath caught in my throat, a surge of instinct compelling me to pull back. Yet I stood my ground and I found myself unable to accomplish that task. I stood frozen, my heart racing furiously as her fingers softly wove themselves with mine. As she inhaled softly, she drew nearer, her voice a tender whisper that danced through the quiet of the space. With a gentle whisper, she conveyed her pride, her voice a fragile thread stitching together the stillness around them. Her hand lingered, suspended in the air for a fleeting moment before it slowly retreated, leaving a coolness in the void where her warmth had previously dwelled. Finally, I exhaled, my mind swirling in a tumultuous ballet of thoughts. I conveyed my appreciation. Yet the words appeared to resonate in a hollow manner. My eyes wandered back to the television, but the visuals failed to hold my interest any longer. My thoughts swirled like a tempest, navigating the tumult of recent happenings, yearning for understanding in the wake of it all. Her gaze was intense, tracing every line of my face, but I found myself unable to return her stare. That was a moment I would never revisit. In a swift motion, she stood, breaking the silence that enveloped us like a heavy mist. "I'm going to bed," she said, her voice slipping back into its well-known rhythm. It was as though time itself had come to a standstill, as if we had crossed an unseen threshold, one that neither of us could fully comprehend how to navigate. As I murmured my goodnight, my eyes lingered on the screen, my thoughts a tempest, wrestling to unravel the chaos within as her footsteps dwindled into the distance of the hallway. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Within the recesses of my thoughts, a tumultuous blend of bewilderment and intrigue twirled, mingling with a subtle emotion that hovered just beyond my grasp. What force had drawn me to linger in that place? Why did I hesitate, my hand unwilling to withdraw? What was it about this moment that suggested it was just the beginning of something much more significant? The subsequent days were steeped in an unmistakable tension, a strange sort of awkwardness that hung palpably in the atmosphere. I deftly maneuvered my schedule around her presence, weaving a tapestry of excuses that allowed me to retreat to my sanctuary or quietly slip away from the house whenever the chance presented itself. Yet, in spite of my every attempt to distance myself from her, the tension hung in the air, dense and tangible, akin to a looming storm cloud poised to unleash its fury. The moment on the couch remained etched in my memory, her hand resting gently on mine, the softness of her voice weaving an intimate tapestry that echoed through my thoughts as the sun sank beneath the horizon. The evening unfolded in a manner that was wholly unforeseen. As the night deepened, I became engrossed in the challenge of finishing my homework, when a soft knock resonated from my door. My heart raced with anticipation as I called out, "Come in!" Upon crossing the threshold, a fleeting shadow of doubt danced across her features, an unusual occurrence for one so well-versed in self-assurance. "Hey," she murmured softly, pausing in the doorway as if suspended in a moment of uncertainty about fully crossing the threshold. "Could you assist me with a small project in the garage?" For a fleeting instant, I halted, ensnared in the intricate tapestry of my musings. To be in her presence was akin to stepping into an exhilarating mystery, and yet, I discovered I could not turn away. "Certainly," I responded, getting to my feet and following her as we made our way down the corridor. The garage rested in a cold grip, shadows swirling in the corners, brought to life by the lone flicker of an overhead bulb. She led me to a stack of boxes, her voice spinning stories about the necessity of order. Yet her words resonated like distant echoes. The atmosphere surrounding us crackled with an undeniable energy, infused with a silent tension that ensnared my mind. As we stood shoulder to shoulder, rearranging boxes, I felt the gap between us closing, despite our bodies occupying the same space. An undeniable force lingered in the air, a silent magnetism that intricately wove our destinies together. Despite my attempts to resist, the truth was becoming ever more apparent as I caught a fleeting glimpse of her, our gazes intertwined for the briefest instant. In that ephemeral instant, a metamorphosis took place. In her eyes, a glimmer of vulnerability danced, a rawness that stirred a flutter in my stomach. In a surprising instant, she approached closer. As her hand brushed against mine, a jolt of electricity surged through me, awakening every nerve in my body. I remained frozen in place, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, compelling me to flee, to speak, to bring this moment to a close. Nevertheless, I stayed motionless. The silence hung in the air, dense and suffocating, enveloping all in its weighty embrace. Then, with a voice that flirted with the stillness, she revealed, "I've been thinking about you." Countless stories await to be shared. My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythmic echo of doubt, rendering me speechless. I opened my mouth, yearning to express a thought, a whisper, but the words remained, ensnared within the confines of my throat. Air slipped through my grasp, my mind a barren expanse, stripped of thoughts, and then, in an unexpected instant, she leaned in an instant. The space that had kept us apart dissolved, and I sensed the soft warmth of her breath on my skin, delicate and welcoming. As her lips hovered enticingly near mine, my thoughts evaporated, and the universe surrounding us faded into oblivion. It was an error. In the depths of my being, I sensed the burden of my decisions, yet the events that transpired were beyond the grasp of any individual. The past is now a distant memory. In the ephemeral moments that ensued, time appeared to elongate and contort, trapping me in a surreal domain where occurrences transpired with a bewildering rapidity, yet remained tantalizingly beyond my grasp. Her face lingered close to mine, the warmth of her breath caressing my skin, and in that instant, uncertainty enveloped me like a veil, making me ponder the essence of reality itself. My thoughts whirled in a tempest, a tumultuous mix of feelings that seemed utterly impossible to unravel. All I felt was the unmistakable presence of an impending transformation, and there was no way to stop its advance. Her gaze locked onto mine, searching, lingering for a trace, a murmur of agreement that I felt an unexpected reluctance to provide. In that ephemeral instant, just before my thoughts could align, her lips brushed against mine, soft, hesitant, yet undeniably real. It was an experience unlike any I had ever known. Every fiber of my being constricted as the gravity of the moment wrapped around me, yet I stood firm, unwilling to back down. I found myself unable to accomplish that task. A magnetic force, an unvoiced bond hung in the atmosphere, ensnaring me in that fleeting instant. In an instant, the world around me shifted, as though time had momentarily halted, allowing a brief glimpse into the extraordinary. As the world around us faded into the background, the garage, the boxes, and the chill in the air transformed into mere whispers, trivial threads in the vast tapestry of the moment. In that instant, everything else dissolved, leaving just the gentle touch of her lips against mine, a feeling both delicate and overwhelming, as though it were the very essence of what I had longed for all this time. As she pulled away, her eyes grew larger, filled with a feeling I found difficult to pinpoint. Could it have been fear, confusion, or maybe just a whisper of regret? Just as the words were on the verge of escaping my lips, before I could fully comprehend the tempest of emotions churning inside me, she kissed me again. This time, the moment was embraced with steadfast determination. It descended into uncharted realms, a wave of fervor that enveloped all, rendering the universe strikingly vibrant and dangerously exhilarating. My heart pounded, a relentless beat echoing in my ears, and I found myself questioning whether she could perceive it too. Still, I found myself hesitating, unable to escape. Instead, I felt myself captivated by the kiss, my thoughts swirling as I sought to comprehend the moment that was unfolding before me. It was as if an invisible barrier, which had separated us for so long, had finally shattered, offering no avenue for retreat. The atmosphere grew heavy with expectation, our breaths growing more shallow as each moment passed by. In her hold, an unusual urgency thrummed, a tangible fear of letting go, as though this bond was as essential to her as it was to me. In that instant, there existed no opportunity for reflection, no capacity to consider the torrent of emotions surging within me. All I could do was lose myself in the tempest of feelings that had unexpectedly carried me off. In that moment, it felt as though the universe had orchestrated a delightful surprise, leading us to stumble backward, breaking free from the garage's confines and seeking refuge in the inviting warmth of the house. In that moment, we found ourselves enveloped in a silence that echoed deeper than any words could ever express. An unspoken understanding lingered in the air, a silent recognition of the path that awaited us. Yet neither of us found the courage to articulate it. We stood in the living room, the exact place where everything first unfolded. The gentle illumination of the television pulsed, casting elongated shadows that waltzed around the space, shrouding all in an atmosphere of enigmatic allure. My heart quickened as she approached, her eyes fixed intently on me. The atmosphere crackled with a palpable tension, thick and suffocating, as if the cosmos itself held its breath, preparing for the dramatic moments that were about to unfold. As her hand reached for mine again, our fingers intertwined in a dance that felt both strange and profoundly familiar. A brief flicker of uncertainty shimmered in her gaze, a soft murmur of doubt that dissipated as quickly as it appeared. She leaned in again, her lips reaching for mine with an intensity that had previously been absent. Our bodies intertwined, creating a stunning tapestry of connection, and in that ephemeral instant, we were wholly immersed in each other. It had evolved, deepening in richness, gaining profoundness, and exuding a newfound confidence. Following that instant, time intricately crafted itself into a fabric of ambiguity. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, time appeared to dissolve, leaving us suspended in a moment that felt both dreamlike and fated. In that instant, contemplation faded into the background, leaving only the unfiltered tide of emotion. With every inhalation and each step, we delved further into the uncharted. Yet neither of us wavered. In that fleeting moment, we sank into the embrace of the couch, the soft fabric cradling us, a serene counterpoint to the intensity of the event unfolding around us. Everything spun around us in a dizzying ballet, yet it seemed as though time had elongated and decelerated, weaving a surreal fabric of experiences. Her lips lingered on mine, and I felt the weight of the unspoken words wrapping around us in a thick silence. This was unfolding, and it had transformed into a narrative we could no longer ignore. Yet, amidst the unfolding events, a part of me lingered in a state of incomprehension, unable to fully grasp it all. How did we arrive at this juncture? How had the events transpired with such swiftness? Deep within, I sensed that this was amiss. The feeling was unmistakable. In that blazing moment, everything else slipped away into obscurity. The essence of what mattered lay in the mesmerizing feeling of her touch, as each kiss and caress sparked a surge of electricity within me. The course was charted, and turning back had become an impossibility. We had embarked on a journey into the unknown, a realm from which neither of us could turn back, and yet, in that moment, it felt entirely right. It felt as if we had been circling this moment for days, maybe even weeks, and now that it was finally happening, there was no way to retreat. Moments faded into oblivion as we became enmeshed, utterly captivated by each other. Time had faded into irrelevance, floating like an overlooked murmur carried by the breeze. Time appeared to elongate and twist, oscillating between fleeting moments and an endless expanse of hours. All I knew was that when I finally pulled back, gasping for air, my mind was a tempest of 1,000 thoughts swirling around. Yet none could overshadow the magnetic pull I still felt toward her. She looked at me, her eyes overflowing with a complex weave of feelings that I couldn't begin to unravel. In that ephemeral instant, our gazes intertwined, both of us breathless, wrestling with the tempest of occurrences that had just transpired. Just as I was on the brink of uttering my thoughts, before I could assemble my ideas or discover the ideal phrasing, her lips found theirs against mine once again. This kiss transcended all others. This narrative unfolded softly, at a deliberate tempo, infused with a depth that surpassed simple surface attraction. It seemed she was crafting a narrative in silence, striving to express the unsaid realities that hovered in the air between us, realities we both hesitated to articulate. In that ephemeral moment, I felt it too. Her hands glided to my waist, pulling me closer as the kiss intensified, the air thick with the weight of our shared experience. We twirled in a soft symphony, the external chaos dissolving as we yielded to the enchantment of our bond. It unfolded softly, filled with a warmth that stirred my heartbeat, a connection that echoed with the familiarity of the known and the excitement of the unknown. The gentle heat of her form pressed against me, a comforting hold that steadied my soul. In that fleeting moment, I became completely absorbed, relishing the intimacy that enveloped us like a treasured secret. Thus, silence wrapped around us from that moment forward. The words eluded us, unable to capture the chaotic sequence of events that had just transpired, leaving a storm of emotions swirling in our midst. We remained in that moment, shoulder to shoulder, the silence surrounding us, heavy with the weight of all the words left unvoiced that lingered in the atmosphere. As the night deepened, the intensity of the moment slowly faded, yielding to a calm, nearly peaceful silence. With her head resting softly on my shoulder, her breath creating a soothing cadence, I found that, at long last, after what seemed like an endless stretch of time, My mind began to quiet into a serene stillness as the calmness surrounded us. A profound realization emerged within me that everything had altered beyond repair. We had crossed a threshold that had long been locked away, stepping into a domain that neither of us had foreseen. As the night softly faded into silence, the heavy presence of unspoken truths hung in the air, palpable and undeniable. This was just the dawn of a new chapter, far from the end. Consequences would undoubtedly ensue. Stories abound, but in that ephemeral instant, as we settled into the gentle warmth of the living room, all else dissolved into obscurity. What truly mattered was the unmistakable transformation, the deep alteration that had occurred, leaving no way back. The rest of the night unfolded in a gentle blur of tranquil moments, a whirlwind of emotions, and everything that remained just out of reach. Even in our silence regarding the events that unfolded, their influence was undeniably felt. Everything that occurred revealed itself to us, and we embraced it as it was. It was a tempest of feelings, a complex fabric of decisions intricately intertwined in a manner that eluded comprehension. In the quiet embrace of the night, we discovered ourselves surrounded by a silence heavy with unvoiced reflections. We both recognized that the break of dawn would bring forth a new set of challenges, a fresh batch of inquiries that we were not yet ready to face. In the quiet embrace of the night, this moment radiated with profound meaning. The essence of our connection was what truly mattered. With the breaking of dawn, it came upon us with an unwelcome swiftness. As dawn broke, soft beams of light wove their way through the curtains, enveloping the tranquil living room in a comforting warmth where I had settled in for the night. The stillness of the room enveloped me, a sharp juxtaposition to the storm of emotions that had roiled within me the night prior, permitting the heaviness of it all to sink deep into my very being. My mother had disappeared from my existence. At some juncture, she must have taken her leave, yet the very essence of her presence lingered, akin to a shadow enveloping me. I awoke slowly, the recollections of the previous night surging over me like an unyielding wave, inescapable and overwhelming. Our relationship had undergone a profound transformation, and evasion was no longer an option. The reality of the situation was undeniable. One could not pretend that life would seamlessly return to its previous form. The silence in the house enveloped me, a thick shroud that bore down with an intensity that felt almost suffocating. I stood up from my chair and wandered into the kitchen, a spark of hope flickering inside me that she might be there, maybe making breakfast, maybe ready to welcome me as if nothing in the world beyond had changed. Still, the room remained lifeless, the house resonating with an unsettling silence, momentarily trapping me between the comforting arms of relief and the heavy burden of yet another layer of tension to endure. I filled a glass with water, yet the refreshing liquid did little to calm the storm that raged inside me. My mind swirled like a tempest, a chaotic tapestry of thoughts intricately woven, each thread intertwining in a manner that seemed utterly impossible to untangle. What threads had we interlaced into the tapestry of our story? What story was on the verge of revealing itself now? The inquiries cascaded endlessly, leaving me bereft of any response to provide. Before I realized it, her footsteps resonated through the hallway, soft yet unmistakably distinct. My heart quickened as I turned to discover her presence, her expression an enigma poised for exploration. In that fleeting moment, silence wrapped around us, the air thick with unspoken words, the tension almost palpable. "Good morning," she finally spoke, her voice gentle, laced with a touch of hesitation. "Morning," I replied, my throat dry, the words slipping out more strained than I had anticipated. A deep yearning stirred within me, compelling me to explore the intricate thoughts dancing in her mind. Yet the words remained just out of reach, slipping away like grains of sand. All appeared to hang in a precarious balance, fragile and laid bare. We remained suspended in that instant, time elongating infinitely, each of us uncertain about how to navigate the aftermath of the turmoil that had erupted. We found ourselves caught in a moment, uncertain of how to escape and move forward on our journey. The stillness hung in the air, each moment stretching out, heavy and suffocating like a dense mist. Finally, she broke the silence that surrounded them. Her voice flowed with a steady rhythm as she spoke, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of uncertainty, a remnant of the thoughts that had haunted her the night before. Allow me to recount the story of what unfolded. That I inhaled deeply, sensing the burden in my chest intensify. The moment had come, the one I had dreaded. Yet within me, I understood it was inevitable. We discovered that we could not avert our gaze, nor could we pretend that all was unchanged. Indeed, I discovered the words, though they escaped my lips like a gentle whisper, scarcely perceptible, much like this. A lengthy silence enveloped us, and I could perceive the storm brewing in her gaze, the internal struggle as she wrestled with the slippery words, attempting to unravel a truth that eluded all reason. I can't quite grasp how we ended up in this place, she confessed, her voice quivering just a touch. I find myself grappling with the significance of it all. I found myself equally shrouded in uncertainty as you were. All I felt was that a transformation had intricately interlaced itself into the essence of our bond, a shift that lay beyond the possibility of undoing. Neither do I responded earnestly, but we cannot pretend that nothing has occurred. With a purposeful nod, she maintained my gaze, her eyes firmly fixed on mine. I understand, she murmured. I have no wish to pursue that. The revelation hung in the air, heavy with meaning and silent realities. We stood at the edge of an uncharted territory, enveloped in enigma, with the way back obscured, compelling us to venture forward into the unknown. The line had been crossed, and whether we desired it or not, we stood at the brink of whatever lay ahead. I find myself at a loss, I confessed, my voice quivering with doubt. All things appear to have embraced a fresh tint. With a gentle exhale, she allowed her fingers to weave through her hair. Truly, it is a different story, she acknowledged. Yet we shall discover a path, dear companion. This step is of utmost importance for us to undertake. Her words, meant to calm, failed to quell the storm that raged inside me. In this unfolding narrative, there was neither a guiding map nor a way to anticipate the twists and turns that awaited. What I grasped was that we had embarked on a journey into a domain far more complex than either of us had ever envisioned. The day meandered through an ethereal haze, as though time had slipped into a surreal reverie. As we navigated our routine, stirring pots and wiping counters, we donned our masks of normalcy. Yet an unspoken tension hovered like a shadow between us. A quiet agreement existed between us, a sort of unspoken bond, allowing the shadows of our past to remain for a time. Unbothered by our voices, fear enveloped us, restraining our courage to confront the unknown, to decipher the enigma of what it might mean. As the hours unfolded, it became increasingly clear that we could not evade it forever. An oppressive atmosphere surrounded us, creating a significant shadow that was impossible to ignore. Every glance, every transient interaction, was heavy with the reverberations of the night before, leaving us both unmoored, unsure of how to move forward from it. As the evening progressed, we reconvened in the living room. Each of us settled on opposite ends of the couch, the atmosphere heavy with unvoiced sentiments. The silence wrapped around us, thick with the burden of unspoken words. The burden of it all grew increasingly heavy to carry. The silence enveloped me, a heavy cloak that demanded my voice, compelling me to break the stillness before it swallowed me entirely. At this pivotal moment, I proclaimed, my words cutting through the silence, we can no longer don the facade of normalcy, for the reality is anything but. She lingered, her eyes wandering to an invisible horizon, ensnared in contemplation. Finally, as her words emerged, they possessed a tender quality, laced with an air of acceptance. I understand, she murmured, her voice tinged with uncertainty. But I'm at a loss for how to make it right. Her words hit me with a force I had not foreseen. The gradual realization that a resolution might slip through their fingers, that the occurrences they had witnessed could have permanently changed the trajectory of their existence, enveloped their hearts in a profound gloom. My mind fought against the implications, reluctant to face the reality that maybe the journey back to the familiar had slipped away into the darkness.